It is said that all mortals dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night, in the dusty recesses of their minds, wake in the day to find that all was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are mighty indeed, for they may act their dream with open eyes and make it possible. And yet, even as the desire to fully realize that dream spurs us onwards towards greatness, the pursuit of that pristine perfection can sometimes lead us astray into the dark expanses of the artist's soul, wherein doubt shadows our steps, preying on our fears and imperfections. But we can deny him this power, and summoning all our strength of will and tranquility of spirit, break free by mustering the audacity to dare to be imperfect. Greetings, good storytellers. I am the Artful Narrator, and it is my privilege to welcome you to learning the tropes of writing. Today we address the old foe of writers, an adversary who, in my personal experience, has been a nemesis. His name is doubt. Doubt in ourselves, doubt in our writing skills, doubt in our story's vision. Such is the beauty and bane of inspiration, for even as we seek inspiration from the great works of our contemporaries, our love for their art can sometimes be a double-edged blade, conjuring in our minds the idea of a demoralizing contrast between their august work and our own humble efforts. But this is where we err, and to truly understand the folly of this unfortunate perspective, we must look to those writers who came before us and heed their words. For in their time, they too grappled with this ancient foe and came to know him very well indeed. Take, for example, an episode of Northern Exposure, wherein we discover that Holling has been finding great joy in flexing his creativity through a paint-by-numbers set. And yet, his artistic high is quickly brought down when he is confronted with Maurice's harsh criticism, comparing Holling's simplistic artistic endeavors to the supposed real art of old masters. Disheartened, Holling considers giving up on his painting, but finds solace in the wisdom of Chris in the Morning, who explains to him that when we look at art, be it a painting or a story, we tend to think of it solely in its completed state and judge it as a finished product. But people forget that art is just as much a process as it is a product.
All right, you got a very basic problem, Holling. You're confusing product with process. Most people, when they criticize, whether they like it or they hate it, they're talking about product. Now, that's not art. That's the result of art, right? Art, to the degree of whatever we can get a handle on it, I'm not sure we really can, is a process, right? It begins in here, here with these and these.
Yes, it takes time for our early efforts to match the grandeur of our dreams and begin to mirror the quality of our idols' masterpieces. And although we might free ourselves from this snare, and in time shift our perspective from that of product to process by destroying some of our finished products, like monks with their sand mandalas, as Chris suggested, for me, the ability to apply the spirit of this ideology to my own authorly endeavors has required further examination of the source of doubt's hold over me. Because it is one thing to learn something, and an entirely different challenge to believe it, and fully embrace a new way of thinking. For, in truth, such is the power of doubt, that twice during as many years I attempted to make this self-same video, and so spectacularly missed the message of it that I lost faith in myself and was forced to shelve the video, even though during one instance I had already recorded it and edited it to 90% completion. And yet, I'm now able to begin to view these failures in a new light, thanks to another piece of this philosophic puzzle, which came to me from an unexpected source.
Heeded my words not, did you? Pass on what you have learned. Strength, mastery, but weakness, folly, failure also. Yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher, failure is.
Pass on what you have learned. Failure most of all. The greatest teacher, failure is. Imagine if that was our ideology, celebrating the spirit of the full spectrum of an artist's work, from poorly spelled first scribblings to the tragically cliché first short story in school, and on down to the rough outlines of their failed first attempts at a full-length narrative. The journey that finally led them to create the finished work that so captured our imaginations. If we were to bear witness to such a strange and remarkable account, might we then begin to learn to respect the process and appreciate the hidden pain and anxiety that they went through, and, in doing so, grow closer to them, ceasing to see a depressing disparity between our art, but rather a shared commonality, and so come to respect our own process all the more.
He transformed the pain of his tormented life into ecstatic beauty. Pain is easy to portray, but to use your passion and pain to portray the ecstasy and joy and magnificence of our world, no one had ever done it before.
Yes, failure teaches, and is an intrinsic part of the process. But to fully embrace this multifaceted lesson, we must lastly learn to free ourselves from a devious construct that holds many of us pitilessly ensnared. For our only hope of escaping the infamous trap of the perfectionist lies in our ability to end this fixation on perfection that leads us to assume that success is the absence of imperfection and the outgrowing of past mistakes, rather than the hard-won result of priceless lessons learned from all manner of mistakes, failings, and seemingly awful life choices. And to help us put this lesson into perspective, let us give thought to a Star Trek The Next Generation episode titled Tapestry. As the story unfolds, Picard finds himself in a plane of light, where he is welcomed by Q, who tells Picard that he is dead and that his death was caused by complications from his artificial heart.
By the way, how did you lose yours anyway?
Mistake.
Is that a regret, I hear?
I regret many things from those days.
Caught in a moment of self-reflection, Picard laments the arrogance and cocky actions of his youth that, among other things, caused his original heart to be damaged when he got a Nausicaan blade shoved through his back in a bar fight. Intrigued by this account, Q sends Picard back in time, presenting him with the opportunity to relive his younger days leading up to the stabbing, that he might avoid these failings of his youth. And after successfully changing his past, Picard finds himself once again back in the present, with everything the same, save for one detail.
What's happened?
Is something wrong?
I'm not sure. Mr. Wolf, what is my rank and position?
You are Lieutenant Junior Grade, Assistant Astrophysics Officer.
At first, Picard mistakes this for one of Q's tricks, but quickly learns that the misadventures and mistakes of his younger self were, in truth, vital character-defining moments that shaped him into the great man he was to become, and that, with these imperfections stripped away, he was left a decidedly different man indeed.
I can't live out my days as that person. That man is bereft of passion and imagination. That is not who I am.
Au contraire, he's the person you wanted to be. One who was less arrogant and undisciplined in his youth.
In essence, his life, like all our lives, was a tapestry, woven of failings and victories, each contributing to the person we're destined to be. Just as all the poor first drafts and occasional irrelevant characters are vital components of the process that will see your literary work slowly rise to greatness. And so it was that, having come to this realization, Picard asked Q to undo the changes that had been made to his past, whereafter Picard awakened in sickbay back on the Enterprise, with all of his mistakes and triumphs intact.
There are many parts of my youth that I'm not proud of. There were loose threads, untidy parts of me that I would like to remove. But when I pulled on one of those threads, it unraveled the tapestry of my life.
Today I have sought to address this topic honestly, with the all-too-real understanding that it represents a very hard lesson to fully take to heart. And while we may dream of the day when our stories are finally finished, that they might stand alongside the legendary works that inspired us, do not let that fixation on future achievements and finished products distract you from the joy of the process that so excited us when we first set out to put word to page. Because, regardless of what other accomplishments we may attain, in our hearts we will always be writers, in love with the thrill we feel when the plot is coming together and all the words are flowing merrily from mind and heart to page. So dare to go toe-to-toe with doubt, get knocked flat on your face, and bounce back with a laugh and an audacious grin. Dare to see the shining potential in your story, and work passionately to polish it, such that one day others will see it too. And above all else, dare to be beautifully, majestically imperfect.